Raoul is a filthy loser who quit being a hero after failing to smash the Demon King. However, when the Demon King's daughter shows up at his workplace, Raoul decides to get his revenge by smashing her instead. It starts near an active volcano where Raoul and his companions are fighting against the Demon Lord's army of low-budget Dark Souls skeletons. Initially struggling, the team hero gets together and comes out victorious. As they return, they are met with a government notice canceling the hero program since the Demon Lord has already been defeated. 2 years later, Raoul starts working in an electronics store named Rion alongside his friend Nova. As Raoul laments over the lack of sales, a Fatso Discord mod enters the store and asks if they have I1 cassette tapes. When Raoul says yes, he and his whole gang of Amaranth Online fans subs rush in and empty the stock. After everyone's left, a Karen walks up to the counter and asks to see the manager. Raoul assumes she's here to complain, but the girl reveals she's here for a job interview. The boss Ciara shows up and takes her away, but Raoul looks at her resume and realizes she's Fino, the Demon Lord's daughter. He quickly rushes back to tell Ciara, and Fino is shocked as to how he found out. When he asks why she put it on her resume, Fino says she was told not to lie on her resume, which makes Raoul realize she's just as stupid as she looks. Nonetheless, Ciara hires her and assigns Raoul to train her, much to his shock. Later, Fino gets excited seeing the TV, but Raoul asks her to focus on cleaning the store. After she runs off with the broom, Raoul recalls how his life went to shit after the Demon Lord was defeated because he had no skills for the new world. Later, Raoul asks Fino to take her hood off during work hours, and when she does, he realizes she looks like a normal girl. Just then, an old customer shows up and blesses Nova's assets with his wisdom. Fino gets furious and is about to take him down when she sees he's here to buy a light bulb. After he's left, Fino assumes it's a custom in humans to cup each other's cake as a sign of friendship and offers her rear end to Raoul, much to his disappointment. Later, Raoul is having lunch when he's approached by Lam, who works at a nearby bakery. She asks him why he looks so depressed, but her coworker Elsa sends her off to complete a delivery. She then leaves Raoul with some extra lunch in exchange for him giving her the latest catalog of washing machines. Meanwhile, Ciara meets assistant manager Visor, and the two watch Raoul school the new girl Fino through the camera. Raoul asks her to be polite to customers and asks him to practice on her, but she gives up an aura so deadly even Raoul feels uncomfortable. She says she was merely talking like her dad used to, but Raoul gives her a manual on how to talk to the customers. He then takes her to the storeroom where they keep all the items sent for repairs. Fino gets excited and touches a humidifier, but it short circuits and knocks her out, leaving Raoul to carry her out. Realizing that Ciara is away, he decides to give Fino a change of clothes, but gets shocked when her juicy melons pop out. Fino quickly gets up and is ready to sue for harassment, but Raoul says he thought Fino was a boy. After clearing the misunderstanding, Fino changes into the store uniform and is ready to take on the world. At night, Raoul returns to the store and finds a topless Fino washing her hair at the kitchen sink. He asks why she is bathing here, and Fino reveals she has no house here, which is why she'll be using the store as her temporary castle. When he realizes she used dishwashing soap instead of shampoo, he quickly makes her wash her hair and helps her with a dryer. While Fino is enjoying her time, she says she was initially scared to come to the human world, but is glad she found someone as kind as him. The next day, as Raoul walks to the store, he explains how humans have developed electronics that convert magic power to electricity. However, the world still isn't used to the new technology, but he hopes they will come around, and the demand will increase soon. As he steps in, Raoul sees Fino knocked out on the couch and tells her to stop turning the store into her OnLifeEnd's trailer. Later, he teaches Fino how to talk to the customers but realizes she's just as stupid as when she first started. Just then, Visor shows up and shows them a magical document inscribed into a hairdryer, explaining how it works as a spell to turn magical power into electricity. Turns out, the inscription was using a very high amount of magic, and Visor points out that it's the manufacturer's fault for doing so. Later, Raoul teaches Fino some common phrases that will help her deal with customers, but her memory is worse than a goldfish. He writes the phrases on Fino's hand with a permanent marker, hoping it would help her, but she probably can't even read. While taking out the trash, he recalls how he became the unemployed friend on Tuesday, once the Demon Lord was defeated, which makes him sad. Just then, he runs into a girl named Airi, who used to be her rival in the Hero Prep class. She remembers him being top of the class and asks why he's working a daytime job, and Raoul tells her how his skills are more useless than floppy disks in 2025. Airi can't believe he gave up on his dream and angrily walks off after declaring they're no longer rivals. Inside the store, Fino is still practicing the phrases on her hand when a thief comes in and asks her to hand over all the money. Instead of being scared, Fino hits him with the welcome to the store with a gentle smile, which throws him off. He swings his axe around but misses when Fino bows down to apologize, causing him to lose his balance. Fino then grabs the axe and swings back at him, which causes his mask to split into two. As Raul returns to the shop, he first assumes Fino is scaring yet another customer, but quickly realizes that this one is actually here to steal their money. As he starts swinging at them, Fino realizes she doesn't need to treat their guy as a customer and quickly snatches his axe, asking him about his preferred method of death. When the guy passes out for fear, Fino tends to another customer with a giant axe in her hand, causing them to run away from the shop. Later, they tell Ciara about the thief, but she is just a chill guy more focused on the fact that Nova managed to sell a refrigerator. After they applaud her, Raul asks for leave, claiming he has to meet a few friends. Fino processes the news and has the crushing epiphany that even houseplants have a better social life than her. At night, he meets Klein and Blaze from his hero party and learns that they are still determined to become heroes. Raul believes being a hero is no longer a profession, but the two of them think people will need new heroes sooner or later. Returning to the store, he finds Fino sleeping on the couch and notices a diary on the table telling him that she is practicing even after closing. Just then, Fino wakes up and snatches her diary away, and Raul praises her for working so hard. As he's about to leave, she asks him to test her again, and unlike before, she's remembered all the phrases, which makes him happy. He recalls how Visor taught him using similar methods, and even though he didn't want this job, he worked very hard for it. Just like he couldn't become a hero, Fino couldn't become the next demon lord, and he finds it quite amusing how both of them are working under the same roof. That night, Fino sleeps inside the storeroom of Raul's apartment, but she doesn't wake up to her alarm, prompting the guy to rush to the room. However, when he spots her snoozing with the twins out on parade, he grabs a shirt and stages a cover-up operation. He suggests she be on guard since they're living together, but she says it's fine because he's too much of a beta to make a move. Later, they head to the store together, and Fino is happy because she got clothes from Ciara and Raul. At the store, Ciara tells them she rented a room next to Raul's apartment so he can keep an eye on Fino. Later, Fino tries her hand at a promotional poster, but it ends up looking like Satan's vacation brochure. She shows it to Raul, who scolds her, but they are interrupted by an old customer who wants to have her table fan repaired. When Raul says this one has lived its days, Fino urges him to do something to fix it because her dad told her old stuff is the best. Moved by her words, Raul decides to take a look only to be stopped by a blue-haired chick. Fino gets her guard up and asks who she is, and Raul explains she's Lore, who does home maintenance. Lore takes a look at the fan and tells the old lady she can fix it. When the old lady thanks Fino for her help, Fino gets super happy since this is the first time she's satisfied a customer. Meanwhile, Sears and Visor are in a board meeting when Gil praises them for a high customer satisfaction rate. When he points out that the sales are low, Eric tells them to double their inventory and sell generic brand items. Meanwhile, Raul and Fino visit Elsa's store to grab a bite, and she pushes Fino to buy fried chicken. When Lan shows up, Raul introduces her to Fino, but she starts acting strangely for some reason. Later, Oe revisits the store to buy something, and Raul asks what she is up to these days. She says she's working in a security agency because the recession has made the city more dangerous. She says she needs to work super hard to kick some demon ass. But when Raul says the war is over, she says she won't rest until she annihilates all demons from this world. Just then, Fino passes by and assumes that Airai is a complainer, deeming them the worst kind of customers who ruin businesses. She's about to reveal that she's got demon blood, but Raul covers her mouth and tells Airai that Fino is always saying dumb stuff to look cool. Later, the board doubles the shop's inventory and the staff is excited to sell new products, especially the cheap air purifier. Just then, Elsa shows up to check out the new stuff, explaining that she left her store in Lan's care. They all want to test the air purifier, but nothing happens when Elsa presses the button, making them think it's a broken piece. As soon as Fino touches it, a purplish monster comes out of the box and starts attacking them. Lore tells them it's a defective piece called Witch's Arm, which is formed when the magical document is damaged by excessive magic. When they ask her to fix it, she says the only solution is to block the release of magic, or in other words, hit the off button. Airai demonstrates her powers and manages to free everyone, but she gets restrained by the witch's arm, which makes her clothes disappear. Fino rushes in to save her, but she also gets caught, and after overcoming his self-doubts, Raul rushes to the locker room to retrieve his old sword. Demonstrating his hero powers, he manages to free the ladies, but his head starts hurting because he hasn't used his powers in so long. When Airai gets captured again, Raul asks Fino if she can use her magic, but she reveals she hasn't woken it yet. She then serves as a distraction to the witch's arm, allowing Raul to completely obliterate the monster. Fino then quickly rushes in and turns the device off, and Raul is satisfied to learn that he still has that hero gene in him. The next day, Fino is about to make her first sale but fumbles again when she mentions that the color of the cassette is the same as a child's liver. Raul asks why she needs to make such analogies, and Fino says it's because that's everyday sightings for her. Later, Elsa says she's short on manpower and asks the neighbors for help, and Sierra agrees to it because she wants to try out a new uniform. Visor tells her she's needed here, so Sierra has no choice but to ask Fino to help Elsa. However, Fino refuses to work anywhere else, claiming she loves working in her own shop. When Raul hops on to back her up, Sierra shuts them up by saying it's an order that they must follow. Later, Fino puts on the new uniform, and after Elsa takes cute pictures of her for her online fans, they promise to help her on her first day. Later, Fino sells spaghetti to a customer by comparing it to human guts, only for Elsa to take her out of there before the customer runs away. Elsa is amused to learn that Fino has the same habit of making things sound scary, and recalls how Lam used to be just like her when she first joined. However, she makes her understand that people don't like talking about this stuff, so it's best to keep things lighthearted. Meanwhile, with the store empty, Raul and Nova just exchange looks like NPCs waiting for dialogue options. Raul then comments on how it's unusually quiet in the store and realizes it's because Fino isn't here to turn their lives into a live sitcom. Meanwhile, Fino is tasked with warming food for a customer, but she is hesitant to touch the microwave because electronics don't work so well around her. Just then, Lam shows up and advises her to take a deep breath before touching the microwave, which helps her operate it. Later, Fino tries to push a lot of stuff into a smaller bag, but Elsa teaches her to use bigger bags and the order of entry. Back at the electronics store, Nova is busy cleaning when the old man from earlier parks his hand in her VIP section before buying 2 light bulbs and exiting the shop. Raul asks her if it bothers her, but she says it's fine and that he can get hands-on with her caboose too if he likes, which makes him blush. Just then, Visor shows up and tells Raul to keep his hands in check, or at least do it when he isn't around so he doesn't get sued. During lunchtime, Raul visits Elsa's store and realizes that Fino fits perfectly here, which makes him a little sad. After he buys something to eat, Fino scans the items on her own and even operates the microwave perfectly, much to his surprise. As he gets to lunch, Elsa joins him and asks if he has a soft spot for Fino, which makes him red. He starts eating quickly to get out of this awkward situation, but ends up burning his mouth. Later, while Nova is cleaning the shelves, Raul initiates a cheek check without permission and realizes she's packing in the rear department. Meanwhile, Elsa is teaching Fino how to make oden, but Fino believes something is missing and adds loads of sauce, canned coffee, and ketchup. Elsa is preparing herself for a culinary disaster, but when she tastes the soup, it turns out to be surprisingly tasty. However, Glam says they can't use it because it's not what they normally sell. She gives him a lecture on sticking to the principles, and even though she admits it's tasty, she asks him to remake it using the store's recipe. Back in the store, Raul is drawing a poster but can't keep his eyes on Nova's Titanics. Nova sees him drawing and gets up close to watch, and Raul's heart starts doing cartwheels because she's a certified baddie. On the other hand, Oi Rai is in the next store looking for a magazine and is shocked to see Fino. She thinks Fino got a corporate axe from her last job, but finds out she's just moonlighting for a day. She compliments Fino's uniform, and when she says even Raul said it looks good, Oi Rai gets jealous, claiming he never complimented her clothes. Back at the store, Raul is sweating bullets because Nova is practically in his face, so he tries to fill the air by complimenting her earnings. Nova is super happy to hear that, explaining how Raul never talks about anything other than work, and this is nice for a change. Meanwhile, Elsa teaches Fino how to operate a coffee machine, and Fino is impressed at how much she knows. Elsa reveals she used to live in the countryside where there were no stores, so she would read catalogs and learn about electronics. At the end of her shift, Fino is super happy because she learned a lot of new things, but when Lam asks her to work here instead, she turns her down, saying Raul is waiting for her return. At night, she treats her coworkers to the leftover oden and then makes coffee for Raul, making him realize how much she's changed just in one day. The next day, Raul is teaching Fino how to use telephones, but she thinks hello is just another type of hell. Just then, Visor asks them if they've made any sales, and Raul says the store is emptier than his DMs. Visor starts panicking and wonders why no one is visiting their shop today, but Fino tells him not to worry because she just decorated the storefront. Raul praises her for using her brain once, only to learn that she created a poisonous pond in front of the store and decorated it with some man-eating plants. Turns out the old man who buys light bulbs got poisoned because of it and is buying antidotes from Elsa's store. Later, Raul and Fino return after burying the poison pond, and Fino is annoyed because she spent a lot of time making it. Visor feels responsible for this blunder, and to attract more customers, he asks Fino to dress up in cosplay and stand in front of the store. Just then, Sierra shows up with a newspaper and reveals that Amada Magic has opened a store in the capital, which explains why no one is coming to their store. Lore explains that Amada is the biggest magic items franchise and has stores all over the country that account for 50% of all sales in the industry. In comparison, their store only has 10 stores nationwide and has less than 3% of the market share. Due to the urgency of the situation, Sierra orders to hold an emergency meeting, but then takes them to the local food joint because she thinks better ideas come after eating. Later, she pulls out Amada's leaflet for their grand opening, and the staff learns their rivals are selling at a much cheaper price. After failing to come up with their own marketing strategy, they ask Fino to share her 2 cents. She suggests building a shrine of malevolent god and offering human sacrifices in exchange for prosperity. Sierra agrees on the condition that they use flowers instead of human sacrifices, much to Raul's frustration. Later, they ask Raul and Fino to go to the Amada store undercover so no one would recognize them. At night, while Raul is giving to the thought of Fino in a cosplay, she knocks on his door dressed up as a low-budget rock-type Pokemon. Raul turns her down, stating they'll be arrested as she walks in public with this dress. The next day, both of them await Amada's grand opening, and even Elsa and Lam are in the crowd. Once the ribbon is cut, the customers are welcomed into the store by busty chicks in bunny girl costumes. Amid the staff is Airi, who keeps her head down because she is too embarrassed to look anyone in the eye. Meanwhile, Raul and Fino get separated because of the crowd, and when she yells his name out, Airi quickly recognizes her voice. The two meet up on the stairs, and Fino says she dressed up in a schoolgirl outfit because Sierra told her Raul likes young girls, much to his embarrassment. Later, some bunny girls boot up Amada's latest magic grill, and everyone gathers around to get their meat barbecued. Fino wants to get on their meat as well, and she is so desperate she crawls between the crowd to get to the front. While Raul is soaking in embarrassment, Aoirai is serving drinks and prays no one recognizes her here. Just as she closes in on Raul, Elsa the guy gets distracted by Elsa, which allows them to avoid each other. Elsa teases her because he turned her down multiple times but goes with Fino, implying that he's trying to rizz up the new girl before anyone else. Raul says he came here for work, but before he can explain, Lan shows up and tells them Amada also has a magic bakery. One of the staff members overhears and offers to show them around, and Elsa, being a bakery enthusiast, goes with him before asking Raul to go out with her next time. Meanwhile, Amada's grand opening is so huge it makes it to the news channels, but Sierra is confident her spies will go well. Meanwhile, Raul scolds Fino for standing out too much, and she responds by suddenly holding his hand. Turns out, Sierra advised her to act like his girlfriend when they're in trouble, much to Raul's frustration. Just then, they run into an old woman and help her find the place where they are selling air conditioners. Fino asks why the staff members didn't help her, and Raul explains how each member has a designated area in big stores. Meanwhile, Sierra and Visor meet up with Gil and Eric to discuss potential counters to Amada's grand opening. The guys are worried about their future, explaining that they will have to close shop if the sales drop by 40%. At Amada, Raul and Fino talk to a staff member about the new camera models, and the guy says it's perfect to take pictures of cute couples such as them. Later, they attend a small concert held by Amada where Fino promises to be the best girlfriend, even though she doesn't even know what it means. Just then, Raul bumps into a staff member who turns out to be Airei in a bunny girl costume. Raul asks what she is doing here, and I realize that she is in security, but was asked to serve as a staff member for the day. Raul asks her to show him his weapon as proof, but Fino says she must have hidden in between his twin towers. However, Raul realizes she's lying and asks what happened to her. She explains how she picked a high-paying job in the start but left because it involved tricking people. She is embarrassed to admit that she failed as a hero and has to take this worthless job, but Fino argues that serving customers makes her happy. Raul recalls hating his job as well but realizes it's not as bad as it once was with Fino around. Airi asks why Fino was clinging onto Raul's arm, and she straight up says she's his girlfriend. Airi asks how serious this relationship is, and Fino says they're already living together. Raul tries to defend his honor, but Airi's convinced he's running a side hustle as a pimp lord. He manages to explain that they're undercover as a couple, and Airi takes a sigh of relief because the Raul she knew thought flirting was just a myth created by Hollywood. When Fino asks her to give them a tour, Airi agrees because it means she can keep an eye on them. Airi takes them to an arcade machine where Fino almost reveals her demon origin, followed by a massage chair where she demonstrates the giggle physics of her chug jugs. Later, while Fino is playing at the playground, Oiri asks Raul why he gave up on his dream given how he's still strong enough to beat a witch's arm in a single blow. Just then, a troubling customer parks his hands into Oiri's uncharted territory and makes her apologize when she reacts. Oiri has no choice but to comply, but Fino shows up to the rescue and scares the man off. Just then, the sales manager shows up and scolds Oiri for being rude to a customer, and Raul learns that their undercover mission is not as secret as they thought it was. Meanwhile, Ciara and the others hit up a production factory and learn that they're using small demons to do most of the handiwork, which has cut their labor expenses to zero. The guy there reveals they're exclusively working for Amada, who instructed him to let any visitors in, making them realize the company was aware of their shenanigans. Back at Amada, the sales manager says they let them in because he doesn't consider their company a threat, but Raul tells him he'll eat his words very soon. At night, Raul and Fino meet up with the rest and discuss how Amada is 2 steps ahead of them. Despite the setbacks, Ciara asks everyone to applaud Raul because he failed his task successfully. From now on, they are at war with Amada, and Fino is overly confident in their chances. The next day, Raul dresses up as a mascot and looks even stupider than he already did. He's joined by Fino wearing a similar costume, and both are tasked with attracting more customers to the shop. While they are failing miserably, Amada has launched a full-fledged advertising campaign with thick bunny girls who attract all the Discord mods. Raul feels defeated and is about to leave, but then he comes across the old lady whom they helped at Amada. She says she's still looking for an AC, so Raul takes her to their store and shows him a simple model. After Raul explains it's working in simpler terms, she asks her to install it in her house. Raul asks Lore since it's her job, but she says she has to head to another shop first. Since the old lady is already waiting, Raul asks Lore to help her and let her handle the issue at the other shop. On the way, he explains to Fino how their appliances need a magic refill every month, and their store provides a lifetime of free service. Once at the shop, the owner tells them that Nova already tried refilling the magic, but it's not helping. Raul tries to give it a shot too, but the meter goes back to 0 after a few seconds. When Raul says they won't give up, Fino asks him to let her pour magic since her magic is the strongest. As soon as she does, a magic eater demon comes out of the tank and latches onto Fino's arm. After the demon explodes, the power is restored, and the owner gives them drinks to replenish their magic. Just then, they get a call from Lore who tells them there is another issue that needs their attention. Raul and the squad pull up only to get roasted by the old lady's son for selling her an AC she didn't even need. Turns out, her son already bought an AC from Amada, and he is not willing to change his mind. He reveals that Amada is selling the same AC at a much cheaper price, and Lore figures it's because they have enough ACs to end global warming. In the end, Raul makes the mature decision to back off, allowing the Amada worker to install the other AC. The son sternly tells his mother not to make such a mistake again, and Fino is upset because he's been acting like an ass ever since they got here. She says her son is a good person at heart, but he might be feeling burdened because they're living together now. Raul tells the old woman that she's a burden on no one and politely asks her to visit their shop if she needs anything. Just as they are about to leave, the son asks them to wait and reveals they need more magical power to run the AC. Lore checks it and realizes they are using way too much magical power and asks to see what appliances they are using. Inside their house, Lore checks the fridge and comes to the conclusion that the wiring has gone bad in the house, and the Amada worker says it will take $300K to redo the whole thing. When the son says they don't need the AC anymore, the guy asks $10,000 for the cancellation and $3,000 for inspection. They ask Lore how much it would cost if she were to redo the wiring, and she says it will cost around the same amount. However, Lore suspects something is wrong because the house is only using one fridge right now and decides to check one more time. While inspecting, Lore turns the fridge off, but the magic still runs out, which means something else is using it up. Having experienced this before, Raul and Fino realize it must be another magic eater, but Fino can't go all out like last time because it would destroy all the home appliances. They rip up the floorboards and discover a full-on buffet for magic eaters, so Lore draws circuits using chalk to lure them out. Once Fino pours her magic, the magic eaters come out of the vents one after the other and start latching onto her. Soon enough, they merge into one giant bubble that encapsulates both Fino and Raul. Once all the slimes are out, Lore signals Fino to release all of her magic, which makes them Thanos snap out of existence. Later, the Amada employee returns to install the AC, but the guy turns him down, saying they'd rather buy from Raul because they've been super nice to them. After installing the AC, they visit a bathhouse to wash off the slime, and Fino's antics make it look like Raul's living the honeymoon he never signed up for. At night, they celebrate a successful day at work, and Ciara praises them for keeping customer satisfaction as the top priority. Just then, they hear the news that Amada has merged with a big production company, and even though they feel a little defeated, Sears is hopeful they can continue with their own methods. Later that night, Fino gets sugar high from eating too much candy, and Raoul has to carry her on his back. After tucking her into bed, the man goes to sleep but wakes up to the sight of his juicy chug jugs in his face. He wakes Fino up in panic, who gets shocked and asks why he's in her room. However, she quickly realizes she woke up in the middle of the night and walked to his room because he had a fan. She then remembers her dad telling her that a man and a woman sleeping together equals a baby, but Raoul says that'll only happen if she hops on his ding-dong. Later, Raoul makes her breakfast and learns that she has been eating leftover bread crusts because she hasn't been paid yet. As they walk to work, Fino feels dizzy because the temperature is rising, but Raoul tells her they have AC in the shop, which makes her excited. However, once they enter the shop, they are shocked to see Nova collapse on the floor. As they rush to her, Nova regains consciousness and complains about the hot weather. Fino starts crying over the heat, but Raoul believes there is a dangerous fire monster somewhere in the shop. As Nova gasps for air, Raoul decides to unbutton her shirt to make her feel better. But as her melons pop out, Visor and CRS show up ready to call 911. As they take Nova to the office, Sierra continues to imply that Raoul is a predator and Visor wants to sue him for taking advantage of a coworker. After teasing him to the point of embarrassment, Sierra reveals the AC is broken and they'll have to bear the heat until it's fixed. Later, while Laura is hard at work, Fino cannot tolerate the heat and cuddles up in the kitchen sink. Just then, Visor takes them to the storeroom loaded with the summer sale stock. Raoul notices that they don't usually sell this kind of stuff, but Visor says it's their strategy to beat Amada. Meanwhile, the temperature has shot up to 35 degrees Celsius, and the government has advised people to stay indoors due to the risk of heat stroke. Despite that, Raoul and Fino are tasked with selling the sale items outdoors. When Fino complains about the heat, Raoul reminds her that her castle was inside an active volcano, which is much hotter than today. However, she reveals the volcano was just the entrance, and the castle was way deeper into the ground where it was cold. Raoul recalls learning in the hero class that demons are suited to heat, which means it's really bothering Fino more than anyone else. Fino starts feeling dizzy again and accidentally stumbles into the electronics, and since her magic is leaking out, it causes them to explode like fireworks. Since their uniform is ruined, Sears decides to pull out swimsuits, explaining how the HQ has approved them to boost sales. After changing into their new uniform, Sierra, Nova, and Fino put their assets on display and attract a lot of customers to the shop. In the meantime, Laura is still working on fixing the AC and claims she would rather die in the heat than wear something so nasty. Later, Fino spots child-size inflatable pools in the stock and wants to try it out, and Sierra gives her permission, claiming it'll be a demo for the customers. Soon after, a boy sees her playing in the pool and asks his mother to buy her one. Just then, Elsa and Lamb show up claiming they've already finished their shifts and are out to buy swimsuits. Sierra pulls out another pair of swimsuits for them and asks them for help since they're short on staff. While changing, Elsa feels reluctant to be part of this, but Lamb says she should be happy because Raoul will get to see her in a swimsuit. Later, Raoul notices that they only sold pool supplies so far, so Lamb has an idea to boost the sales. She announces that anyone who purchases a camera will get to take a picture of the staff members in swimsuits, and all the Discord mods rush in to buy cameras. As Lore finishes fixing the AC, Raoul manages to sell out all the cameras, giving Elsa the perfect opportunity to get Diddy with him. Just then, Oiri shows up and starts accusing Raoul of being a pimp who jumps from one chick to another. She explains she was sent here on a scouting mission, but she's already seen enough. Lan shows up and calls her out for liking Raoul much like Elsa, and asks her to put on the swimsuit so she can blend in. When she deems the dress inappropriate, Raoul reminds her how she wore a bunny girl costume for Amada, and makes her comply. After changing, she worries people will recognize her, but Lamb gives her a mask to cover her face. Just then, a guy comes running in to take her picture, but she kicks him in the face much to his amusement. Lamb sees this as an opportunity and tells the customers that anyone who buys something over $3,000 will get kicked by the masked beauty. After a hard day of work, Raoul gets a visit from the guy he sold the AC to, who turns out to be a news reporter. He asks Raoul's permission to write an article about their store, to which he happily agrees. The next day, all the employees get their salaries, and Ciara reveals there is a bonus from HQ because they sold more than last month. Since this is Fino's first paycheck, everyone congratulates her, and she's so happy she vows to never spend this money on anything. However, the squad tells her to treat herself for the hard work she's put in this month. At night, they visit a restaurant, and Raoul tells Fino that the manager treats all of them to dinner every payday. Despite that, Fino orders the kids' meal because it has variety and also because it comes with a toy. Once the meal is served, Ciara asks Fino to buy the essentials with her salary and asks Raoul to take her shopping tomorrow. At night, Fino decides to hang out with Raul in his room, and the guy pretends to read a book to hide the one-man stand-up in his pants. Fino says she should let Raul take the lead since it's her first time, and while she's talking about shopping, Raul's mind is deep in the gutter. Just then, a fly comes into the room and Fino jumps into Raul's arm in panic, but then she gets self-conscious and leaves his room. The next day, the two are on their way to the store when they run into Elsa and Lamb, who tease Raul by calling it a date. Later, Fino arrives in the store, but she is sweating bullets because she does not know how to approach the counter. With encouragement from Raul, she reaches the counter and even signs up for the membership card all by herself. On her way out, Fino feels happy knowing how the human world is connected and expresses how happy she is to be here, making Raul realize that being a hero isn't the only way he can help people. Excited to explore the market, Fino carelessly runs off and is saved from a car crash by Raul, which makes her ovaries throw a rave. Later, they visit a jewelry store where the lady assumes Fino is Raul's girlfriend. Raul gets frustrated and drags her away, but Fino says it made her happy when the lady made that assumption. Following that, Raul spots an armory and starts checking out the sword, allowing Fino to sneak back to the jewelry store. When Raul realizes she's missing, he starts looking for her all over the market, only for her to show up in a cute dress. She explains how she was pulled into a shop on her way out, and the lady there told her she looked good in this dress. This is the first time Raul has seen her in a dress, and his junior is giving a standing ovation in his pants. Just then, a man clicks a picture of them, and Raul gets flustered looking at it. Fino then tells him she brought a bunch of other stuff with all of her pay, but goes into despair when Raul asks how she's gonna until her next pay. Later, Raul notices that she's hungry and treats her to a wrap which she shares with him. She thanks him for everything he's done for her so fat, and gives him something to remember the day. Raul is moved by her gesture, but is shocked to learn that she got him a charm with the hair of a hero who died trying to beat the demon lord. At night, the duo is walking back when Raul asks Fino to go ahead while he gets some drinks. Soon after, he hears Fino scream and rushes to check up on her. He finds her all scratched up and asks her what happened. She reveals she was attacked by some heroes who were angry about losing their jobs and blamed her because she chose to work in the human world. Seeing how much it has affected the world, Fino believes it would be best she returns to the demon world and takes the role of the demon lord. The next day, Fino is back to her carefree self, explaining how it's pointless to dwell in the past. 1 week later, Fino is working a lot more than before, and Raul confides in Nova with his worries regarding her. Just then, they notice a bunch of kids walking up to her, and Nova explains how Fino was popular with the kids because of her demonic laugh. Nova feels envious because they come here only to see Fino, but just then, the old man shows up and explains he comes here only to get hands-on with her buns. Later, Fino orders a giant chest in the shop, and while Raul gets trapped opening it, she explains it's made to catch dumb heroes. She thinks it'll bring more customers to the shop if they put it out in the front, and Sierra praises her for her creativity or lack thereof. After Raul frees himself, he asks where she got the money to buy this useless chest, and Fino says she bought it from a catalog. Turns out, she thought everything was free since she didn't have to pay up front, and now she's ordered a bunch of useless items with no money at her disposal. Later, Raul confronts her about what happened the other day, and Fino says she's been thinking about it for a week. She reveals her dad was a scary guy who not only hurt humans, but also lesser demons like her mother, which is why she refuses to become the demon lord. Instead, she's been working extra hard so she can become the manager, and make the heroes who assaulted her give up on her. Her plan might be straight up clownery, but Raul's cool with it because peak Fino nonsense is oddly comforting. However, since Ciara is already the manager of this branch, Fino wants to open Rion in the demon world and become the manager there. She explains how there are a lot of good demons in the world as well, and Raul can't deny it because he's seeing one in front of his eyes. She wants Raul to be the assistant manager of her store, and the guy shakes on it. Meanwhile, a strange man visits the shop next door and meets Lamb on the rooftop, who addresses him by the name Raid. She reveals Lamb is actually a demon and seeks her help in making Fino the next demon lord, only to get turned down. After showing Lamb the bloodstone that Fino is supposed to inherit, Raid leads hopeful that the demon lord will make its return. Meanwhile, Fino takes a special order from a customer but forgets to take their contact info, which sends her into a panic. Since there's no way to contact them, Raul says they can't take the order and asks her to take their number the next time they come. Just then, Blaze and Klein walk into the shop and ask Raul for a few minutes of his time, claiming they have something important to discuss. They take him to the nearby restaurant where Blaze tells him that the hero system will come back soon because the demon lord is going to return. Raul tries to play dumb, but Blaze says he already knows Fino is the demon lord's daughter. When he mentions seeing them at the market, Raul realizes it was them who assaulted her that night and gets extremely furious. Meanwhile, Lam and Elsa notice that Fino looks quite down and try to cheer her up. Lam already knows what's up, so she advises her not to give up on her dreams and encourages her to keep doing whatever she is doing right now. Fino gets motivated and decides to head back to work. But when she sees the customer who placed the order, she starts running after him. After getting his contact information, she walks back to the store but gets kidnapped by someone. When Raul returns, he asks around for Fino and finds her dairy near the store, making him realize she's been kidnapped. Meanwhile, Klein meets up with Airi and asks her to do something for him, unaware that Amada's manager is planning on opening weapon shops as soon as the Demon Lord returns. At night, Fino wakes up tied up in an abandoned building and Blaze shows up to tell her she's going to become the next Demon Lord. When she asks where she is, Blaze appears and says she is in the abandoned hero prep school. He blames her for taking their best friend away, explaining that Raul was the closest one among them to become a hero. Fino calls bullshit because she thinks Raul is a normal salesman, but Blaze shows her a picture of their squad. Meanwhile, Raul breaks the news that Fino is kidnapped by his friends, but he promises to bring her back safely. Back at the hero school, Raid hands Fino her father's amulet and explains that she can take control of all the demons weaker than her by activating it. He wants Fino to inherit this amulet so she can take her seat as the Demon Lord, but Fino wants them to coexist with humans as she and Raul do. They explain that Raul is only working there because he couldn't pursue his dream, and if Fino were to become the Demon Lord, he could go back to being a hero. As Raul looks for Fino, he recalls Blaze and Klein telling him that they'll personally restore the Demon Lord and rest the world. Nova visits Elsa's shop to let her know about Fino, and Lam, being a demon herself, immediately leaves the shop to look for her. Raul finally makes it to the abandoned hero prep school where he comes across Blaze, who asks him to think it over. Raul is determined to save Fino, so they have no choice but to duke it out. Blaze explains how their ancestors made a pact with the demons to never flatline the Demon Lord to ensure heroes stay in business. Raul laughs at the sheer hypocrisy of the heroes he once looked up to and has made up his mind to end this once and for all. After defeating Blaze, he tries to free Fino, but is interrupted by Airi, who has sided with Klein and Raid. She says her family was slaughtered by the demons, and she will avenge them by taking down Fino. But Raul's not going to let anyone harm his only chance at getting laid. The two start clashing their swords, and it is clear that Raul is much stronger than Airi, but that doesn't stop her from getting her ass kicked. In the meantime, Raid approaches Fino and says she can end this if she accepts the amulet, making her rethink her decision. In the meantime, Klein rides a three-headed dragon and strikes lightning at the Rion store, but Lore has installed countermeasures to lightning that nullify his attack. Sierra realizes that Klein is the one who kidnapped Fino and meets up with him on the rooftop with a magic calculator. She starts typing numbers to calculate the damage Klein has caused to her business, which causes him to glow with magical power. Visor explains to the rest that Sierra has the power to turn any magical appliance into a weapon, and Klein is as good as dead. Once Sierra releases her magic, a huge explosion occurs in the area that blows him away along with the dragon. Meanwhile, Raul and Airi hit a stalemate as both of them are knocked out by an explosion. Fino is unable to watch them suffer and inadvertently activates the amulet, causing her body to be taken over by the demonic power. After she flies away, Airi wakes up and realizes regrets ever raising her sword against Raul. As she runs up to him with tears, Raul asks her not to hurt Fino, as she is a sweet innocent girl caught in politics. Airi finally understands and promises to let go of her hatred, but can't hold her tears back because she thinks Raul is going to die. However, Raul realizes the sword was blocked by the charm Fino gave him the other day, which makes him super happy. Airi apologizes, saying he almost died because of her, but Raul brushes it off because he survived in the end. Raul then decides to leave and find Fino, but Raid says she's already turned into the Demon Lord. As he tries to attack her, Sierra shows up in her hero costume and sucks up his attack using a magic vacuum cleaner. As Lam and the rest of them join her, she asks Raul and Airi to look for Fino and let her handle things here. Just then, the old man shows up with his dragon ride and takes them to her location. Once they close in on the mountain connecting both worlds, Fino uses her powers to activate the volcano, sending dozens of boulders throughout the city. The heroes crash in a nearby forest and allow Lore to repair the ride while they take care of the nearby monsters. They manage to jet the ride again, but face opposition in the form of demons who make them crash again. This time, the ride is completely destroyed, so they decide to travel on foot. The old man carries an injured Lore on his back and heads back to the city, while Lam, Raul and Airi approach the volcano. Eventually, they approach the gate connecting both worlds, and Raul and Airi are excited because it brings back memories of their hero days. Working together, they manage to defeat the monsters guarding the gate, allowing Lamb to open the door for them. Raul is the first one through, but Lamb and Airi close the door behind him so they can hold the demons back. Raul doesn't want to leave, but after encouragement from Airi, he understands his mission and pushes forward. Eventually, he finds Fino, but she starts attacking him recklessly. However, Raul refuses to let her be consumed by the demon lord spirit and starts fighting her while repeating the 8 phrases he taught her in the shop. Soon after, Fino regains control of his body and asks Raul to save her, but when the door to the demon realm opens, she once again gets consumed by the demon lord spirit. Raul tries to block the door with his body, but Fino walks up to him and starts choking him. However, Raul reminds her of all the things she experienced at Rion and shows her the first order she took from a customer. Seeing the paper takes Fino on a nostalgia trip, allowing her to regain full control of her body. The amulet is broken and the door is closer, and Raul manages to prevent Fino from becoming the demon lord. At night, the Sierra throws a party for the whole Rion staff for working together in rescuing Fino. The next day, the customer who placed the order to Fino finally makes a purchase, and Raul praises her for being a good employee, much to her amusement. Just then, Lamb and Elsa show up to some stuff because Sierra gave them a discount voucher for their help. Just then, Seer and Visor arrive and introduce them to their newest employee, who happens to be none other than Airi. Fino is now promoted to a senior employee and is tasked with monitoring Airi, which makes her super happy. Airi claims she decided to work here reluctantly until she finds a real job fitting a hero, but Raul knows she will come to terms with reality just like he did. That is it for this video. Leave a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe to the channel for similar content. And as always, thanks for watching.